So I just wanted to start off with one of the last things that my dad left me with. So he writes me a letter from Afghanistan, right?
Mm-hmm.
He forgot to attach it, but he said, "This is the SEAL creed. Keep it with you at all times. When you're having a crappy day, pull it out, read it, and just use it as a reminder for the rest of your life." And then Red Wings was less than 5 days later, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it was like one of, I don't know, just my huge keepsakes. And he said one of the things he told me in that email was a lot of good guys got together and, to make this what it is. And so I'm just going to read that real quick. In times of war or uncertainty, there's a special breed of warrior ready to answer our nation's call. Common citizens with uncommon desire to succeed. Forged by adversity, they stand alongside America's finest special operations forces to serve their country, the American people, and protect their way of life. I am that warrior. My trident is a symbol of honor and heritage bestowed upon me by the heroes that have gone before. It embodies the trust of those I have sworn to protect. By wearing the trident, I accept the responsibility of my chosen profession and way of life. It is a privilege that I must earn every day. My loyalty to country and team is beyond reproach. I humbly serve as a guardian to my fellow Americans, always ready to defend those who are unable to defend themselves. I do not advertise the nature of my work nor seek recognition for my actions. I voluntarily accept the inherent hazards of my profession, placing the welfare and security of others before my own. I serve with honor on and off the battlefield. The ability to control my emotions and my actions, regardless of circumstance, sets me apart from others. Uncompromising integrity is my standard. My character and honor are steadfast. My word is my bond. We expect to lead and be led. In the absence of orders, I will take charge, lead my teammates, and accomplish the mission. I lead by example in all situations. I will never quit. I persevere and thrive on adversity. My nation expects me to be physically harder and mentally stronger than my enemies. If knocked down, I will get back up every time. I will draw on every remaining ounce of strength to protect my teammates and to accomplish our mission. I am never out of the fight. We demand discipline. We expect innovation. The lives of my teammates and the success of our mission depend on me, my technical skill, tactical proficiency, and attention to detail. My training is never complete. We train for war and fight to win. I stand ready to bring the full spectrum of combat power to bear in order to achieve my mission and the goals established by my country. The execution of my duties will be swift and violent when required, yet guided by the very principles that I serve to defend. Brave SEALs have fought and died building the proud tradition and feared reputation that I am bound to uphold. In the worst of conditions, the legacy of my teammates steadies my resolve and silently guides my every deed. I will not fail. Where were you when this came out?
I was stationed at SEAL Team 6 when that came out. I mean, those are words, easy to say, hard to live by, right? I mean, almost impossible. So, I mean, I think it's a good goal to strive for, but I don't think anybody can do that, to be honest with you.
It means something different to you than to me, right?
Right.
Like my resolve at the end of the day or my hard work means something completely different from yours. What are some things in there that resonate with you or like have really, I don't know, your career, you feel like that one and that one, like those always sit with me?
I don't know. I guess the never quit is probably, I mean, that's something you're taught from the beginning, from buds, is never quit, which is good and bad, because sometimes you have to know when to quit. Because saying never quit, I never quit, never ever, it's like, that's not smart, right? Because sometimes you're just like, hey, this isn't working. We need to start over and figure out a new way to do this. I guess it's not quitting in the grander sense of the word, but it's like you have to know when to call it a day, right?
Yeah.
You have to know when you're getting your ass beat and say, okay, we're out. Is that quitting? Yeah, it is. So, I mean, it's like I said, they're words. It's something to strive by, but nothing. I don't think there's any absolutes is what I'm saying. Is what I've learned in my career is that there are no absolutes, because other than your teammates, I guess, that you're fighting with and for.
Definitely agree with that one. I want to get there too. So one thing that I kind of want to give to them, but I guess the audience gets it too, right? But like my guys, like when we were touring a couple weeks ago with Ray, and I asked you, you know, have you done some of those jumps, right? So like the little zodiacs, or, you know, could you describe, just kind of give me the feeling of like, so first of all, we'll premise with, you can be anywhere in the globe in 24 hours, right?
Yes.
And so as one of those capabilities, how does that work? Like, what does that look like for you guys?
Well, typically, you know, most of my life I spent on a damn pager, way before your time, but it's eventually switched over to cell phones, you know what I mean? And we would get text messages, but basically you get recalled. So I lived on a 4-hour recall. So within the first hour, you had to get to work, no matter whether you're sound asleep, whether you're out drinking, whether you're having dinner with your family. You got that page or that text and you left and you went to work. Then you had 3 hours to get all your stuff together to get ready for whatever mission that you're going on. And the plane, that actually be wheels up, taking off in 4 hours. So I lived most of my life like that. And, you know, for the most part, you'd run into work. They'd give you like a basic, this is a mission. It's going to be a dive mission. It's going to be a land mission. It's going to be a underway. So just so you know what to pack. Because everybody lives in a 10 by 10 cage, and all your stuff's packed, right? But there's some stuff that needs to go in every bag, right? So that, like your weapons, right? Your holsters, you know, all that kind of stuff. So you do have to have some stuff out, and you just have to be able to grab it, but you have to be able to have it in your mind that you have what you need. Because once you're on that plane, you're done. You have what you have, right? And then you're flying to wherever. And a lot of times we would just fly until we get a midair refuel. You know, if it's on the other side of the globe, you know, that's 2 or 3 of them. And you're just in that little, you know, cylinder of a plane for frickin' 24, 48 hours, depending on how far they got to go.
So then, okay, is it exciting? Like,
no, it's not exciting. It's boring as hell.
Well,
and you're tired and you're hungry, and the bathroom facilities on these aircraft are not the greatest, right? And they get backed up, and then it's a bunch of guys, and it's stinky, and there's pee all over the place, and you're just trying to catch as much sleep and rest as you can. But then in the meantime, you have to do a plan. You have to plan, right? So typically, no matter what, even if we're just flying over to Europe, you got good 8 hours, right? So that's, you know, usually at least 4 hours of planning, and then you try to catch some sleep before you had to jump or land or do whatever to move on to the next point.
Can you talk a little bit about like a Zodiac exiting or a little boat exiting? You drop the ramp.
Yeah, it's anytime the ramp opens, it gets exciting. Okay, so up until that point though, it's boring. But when that ramp opens, you know that you're gonna do something, because most of our deployments were false alarms. Right? Mm-hmm. We were just launching as a precaution to do something. And a lot of times we just turn around and go home. But when the ramp opens, you know that you're going to actually get to do something. So that's the exciting part. And the boat always goes out first with the parachutes, whether it be a high-speed assault craft or a little Zodiac or whatever, that thing always goes out first, and then you follow out after them.
What altitude are you guys?
Usually, you know, depending on the what kind of mission you're doing. If it's like a Zodiac, you could be like 10 feet off the water with a helicopter, right? It just goes out and you just jump out with it. If you're going to do like a static line, you know, between 1,000 and 2,000 feet. And then if it's a free fall mission, that's usually around 4,000. So it just depends. But it doesn't matter because you can't see anything anyway. It's black. It's pitch black. So, you know, you just have to know in your mind, okay, this is a free fall. I'm going to open in 3 seconds, and, you know.
What about your tools and measurement and everything?
What now?
Your tools, measurement, wristwatch.
you don't have time for any of that stuff.
No.
I mean, like I said, even a free fall, it's like I said, it's at night.
You're just pulling.
And you're counting, 1001,
wow,
1002, 1003, boom, pull.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's it. So, I mean, I mean, they make you wear it. I don't know why, but I've never figured that out for safety. So I guess you can see how fast you're screaming if your parachute doesn't open. No, I guess no. The reason is if you have a malfunction, they like to say if you're below 1,800 feet, that's critical time for a parachute to open. So at least that, and you can cut away and get your reserve out before 1,800 feet. That's the goal. So if you're messing with your chute from 4,000 to 1,800 feet, it's like, okay, now it's time. No more messing around. Cut away.
So you spent an incredible amount of time in the teams. How do you, for you in your head, I'm sure you do it for the guys beside you a lot of the time. How do you commit for so long? What was your philosophy?
You have to love what you do. I mean, that was it. I mean, I loved what I did. I worked for the best team in the country, right? The most motivated, a personality, driven, goal-oriented, focused group of people. Not only SEALs, but you got to remember. So for every SEAL, there's at least between 8 and 10 support people, right? So SEALs can't do anything by themselves. They have to have a team behind them, from everything from CVs to admin folks to intel to medical. I can go on and on. So all of us were focused, right? And the ones that weren't focused, you found out really quickly, and they were either marginalized or booted. So I've never had that before. So that's what I like. And it's hard to build something like that, impossible to build something like that outside of that team.
Yeah. Because
everybody's, lives depend on it. And it sounds like corny, but it's true. So when things are going bad here, like when I'm running the Navy SEAL Museum, I always tell people, I says, is anybody dying? Are we going to, is it anything bad going to happen if we don't have this decision today or this doesn't get done? And that's try to get them to focus on that. It's like not critical because nobody's dying. But the SEAL team, it was critical because people were or potentially could die. So that's the difference.
So we'll go there real quick. So with the museum, this is fairly recent, for you, but it's been said that once you got here, everything changed, right? So how does that, me personally, I'm curious at, okay, you go from one of the most elite teams in the world to preserving the legacy. That fits, I'm sure that fits with your ethos and philosophy in life. You coming here was yeah, this is a good move for me. So as you get here and all of a sudden, how much, $25 million submarine pops up, and it's calls and connections that you have that has made the museum so incredibly successful, but also
it wasn't me, it's the team. I always say that. So I brought what I learned from the SEAL teams to this. Now let me back you up a little bit. I've spent 34 years in the Navy, right? So I didn't want to leave, but you have to remember that at the beginning we were talking about never quit. So I had to make the decision to quit because it was what I didn't want to do was turn into some old grumpy guy, right? So the young guys would come up and ask for something, right? My automatic answer was always no. Right? Unless they had their shit together and then they could explain exactly what they wanted and why they wanted it, how much it was going to cost, and how it was going to make our SEAL team better. If they had all that, boom, those guys flew through. But if some guy just came in and says, hey, I want to go on this rock climbing trip to blah, 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 I'd be like, okay, give me the rest of it. And he'd be looking at me, rest of what, They couldn't supply it. So then it was immediately get out. So I wasn't the most well-liked guy because I was like the adult, right? I was like their dad, and I would be like, no, get out. You're not getting it, right? And then if they came back and reapproached me, I'd be like, okay, but they had to work for it. If it made, even if it was on the fringes, because you can imagine all the crazy stuff
Sure.
these guys do. I mean, it's just.
And then you get a call, Rick, why are you $1 million over on
exactly
gummy bears? And
well, so it's like I'll give you an example, and I know I'm going off track here, but some guys came in and wanted to do jet ski training in Hawaii. So what do you think my automatic answer was?
Yeah.
Are you crazy? Hell no! Just go off the beach here in Virginia Beach. But then they were smart, and they brought me like videos of what they would be doing in the training that they would be taking to prepare them to hit beaches and targets along big waves. And when you watch something like that, you're like, oh my God,
the big waves.
You're like, if they don't have, they're dead. If they don't do it correctly, the waves will kill them, right?
Wow.
And then they showed pictures of them going into the beach to pick up people on sleds, right?
Yep.
And get them out of there real quick.
Yeah.
And I was like going, yep, approved,
Yeah.
move on, good job, I love it. And I thought to myself, man, I would love to do that.
Can you talk a little bit about it's probably boring, but that hierarchy of you have to, report to, my dad was infamously called the rock star at STV Team 1 because Brian Losey had to, he would show up and my dad would have an Escalade as a rental car, and they're like, dude, we're getting in trouble for budget. I'm sure you guys had a nice better operating budget, but did you feel a lot of that with some of the decisions that you're making?
You know what? So the chain of command, obviously you have a commanding officer, right? And then you have the executive officer, then you have the operations officer. So that's, I was always in the operational, when I wasn't kicking doors, I was in the operations department. So, what we did was ran the command, via the commander's orders, right? So he gave us his direction and we just followed through. And if there was some sort of conflict, obviously it would get raised up to him, but 99% of the stuff didn't, right? So they had the confidence in us to carry out the command's mission without every little detail getting up to the captain and the XO, right? And that's the key. You have to be able to trust the people that you have underneath you. And I think that's been one of my keys to success here at the Navy SEAL Museum. I trust my people to do their job. And if they don't, we talk about it. If they have an issue and they want my direction, I'll give them the direction. But they also know, when they get to that point to ask me that direction, they're going to get it and they're going to follow it. So they're very hesitant to come and not solve it themselves, right? But it's sometimes, some things, need to come up to the boss, I guess, and final decisions been made. A lot of it with the money is involved.
So you don't just, make it to SEAL Team 6 operations and helping run the command by knowing how to tell people what to do, right? Because then guys on Wall Street or huge corporations would be on SEAL Team 6, right? So, and I bet you could pull some values from the creed, but what do you think they saw in you? What do you think allowed you to be a part of that command for so long?
Back to the creed again, that never quit. So I enjoyed what I was doing, right? And I didn't want to quit, right? And luckily I had my family was strong enough to take that because we did a lot of traveling. I think that's just it. I think there's a joke in the teams that says the longer you stay somewhere, the higher you're going to get in promotions and everything, just because you outlast other people.
Yeah.
And so that's probably what happened to me.
Boiled down to just loving it so much.
Yeah, I did. And in the Navy, which is fairly cool, and even the SEAL team, you don't do the same job for the whole time, right? So I was switching jobs within the team every 3 to 4 years, right? So it would always be something new and exciting to learn and some other responsibility, and then you would learn more about the command and how it operates till eventually you kind of figure it all out. But none of that matters if you don't have good friends and good teammates around you that you can trust and work with. Because I think that's the other key to my success. I could pick up a phone at that command and call any of the departments up and say, hey, I need this. And if they got a no for the answer, I'd say why. And if it made sense, then I'd say okay. But if it didn't make sense, then I would keep pushing until I got the yes.
So you have old team guy philosophy, which you know very well.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like SEAL Team 6 is very much run, like, or at least the guys that I meet, they know that philosophy. They know that the ethic and the code that is old team guy philosophy. Mm-hmm. And then you have like this new teams kind of, and I feel like coming to the museum, you have had to figure out that transition, right? Like you used to be Team 6, now you have to be a public figure. Now you represent, a public mission. How, like, what's the most interesting part of that transition of one of the most clandestine, missions?
I guess the hardest part at the beginning when I first got to the museum was just to be able to trust people that were outside the bubble of the museum. So people would come in and offer to do like work on the garden, right? Or to do something for me. And I'd be like, why? Why are you doing this? Yeah. And what I didn't realize, because I spent all my time in Virginia Beach, is a great place to live and all, but there's so much military around there that everybody just takes it for granted. In places like here in Fort Pierce and Vero Beach, there's not military here. So any, former SEAL is like treated well in my experience living here for the past 10 years. So that was a hard transition for me, is to actually trust people that they wanted to help.
Yeah. Whereas you go grab an Orange Crush in Virginia Beach and they know you're a SEAL.
Yeah. Yeah. And the other thing is like the people thanking you for your service. I always tell them, I said, it's not service if you love what you're doing, because it embarrasses me when they say that. So I try to deflect it. It's like, thank you for your service. It's like, well, I don't consider it service because of my job and I loved it,
We were just talking about that today on our way here. We did an interview with a Green Beret, and
did you speak slowly?
He is actually like, so he's doing the new ketamine dosage, like ketamine dosage as do you know anything about that?
No.
You don't know any guys doing it either?
No, I don't. No, I got a good marijuana story for you though. Oh, you want to hear it?
Yeah, sure. Why not?
So I have two kids, right? My son and my daughter, and for years and years, you got to remember, I've been piss tested my whole life, right? So every so often I would get a piss test, and it was usually and they knew I was the easy button. So when they're doing the test in the command, they knew I was the easy button because I was there, I was doing my work, and I knew I would be pass, right? Yeah. So their whole lives are trying to say, Dad, it's not a big deal. It's okay. Life is good. And I'm like going, nope. If I find it, you're out.
At the time, wait, how old are they?
Yeah, these are 14 to 18.
Okay.
So that was the whole time, right? So then I had my foot amputated, and I couldn't sleep, right? So somebody suggested taking one of those little gummies. Mm. And so I did, and I was able to sleep. This was immediately after the surgery.
Yeah.
So I used them for about a month or two,
okay,
and until the pain went away. And I said to myself, am I going to tell my son that story? Because he's going to say, I know. And I did tell him, and he said, Dad, I told you so. What harm did it do, right? And I was like, yeah, whatever. I still don't want you in my house. Anyway. That's about it for my drug days,
There you go. Like, what's on your heart? How's life these days for Rick Kaiser?
My heart, well, I think that's a good question. So I think if you have a mission, which I do here at the Navy SEAL Museum, and that's to preserve the history and heritage, right? Honor our fallen, and then take care of our families. That's my mission, right? So if something falls outside of that mission, it's got to be very good in order to break through the mission. So I say to people, define your mission. Like you have your mission with this podcast. Anything outside of that is really a distraction. So don't let it distract you. Just focus on what you're doing. So my mission is that, and then we are opening another museum in San Diego. So that has been a bear, so to say, to make it happen, because California is a hard place to do business. It's expensive. It's very political.
What do you need?
What do I need?
Yeah.
In California?
Yeah.
Just $100 million. That's
about
it.
100.
Yeah. 100
Cool.
million. Yeah. So we're actually finally getting some success. We're going to start phase 1 here shortly in the next month or so, and then the rocket's taking off.
What do people have to look forward to in San Diego?
Well, San Diego, Fort Pierce is the birthplace of the Navy SEALs. This is where the guys fought and trained to take the beaches of Normandy, right? So this is like our Alamo. You can't move it, but it's off the beaten path, right? You have to want to get here to see this museum. And we see about 80,000 people a year. And we're very grateful for that. And California, we'll be able to expand our outreach by 20-fold, right? There's just more people. The waterfront down there in San Diego sees 4 million tourists a year. So just the numbers alone will be able to expand everything that we're doing from our mission, preserving the history and heritage, educating the public, honoring our fallen, and taking care of the families through the charities. It's gonna just be that much more effective. So I just focus on those missions, right? And in the meantime, I'm building a new house, which I want to put a bullet in my head right now, but it's very challenging. I'm sure anybody building a house right now would say the same thing, but this is my first one, and it's just we're almost done. A couple weeks.
Nice.
So anyway, that's Rick's life right now.
Little known fact: your wife manages the flowers here.
Yeah, my wife manages the memorial garden. So there's a flower in that garden for every place a frogman has fought and died in the world. So she did all the research to figure out which flowers, right, and from what country. Then she had to figure out how they were going to live here, because we live right on the beach, right? So you got all that salt, all the sun, all that, and then she maintains it. So I've never dug so many damn holes in my life, and I'm not a gardener.
So I'm going to ask a fun one, because we were laughing about this on the way here, and I know you can have fun, right? So
yeah, even I can have fun.
Yeah. So Red Dawn.
Yeah.
What does Rick Kaiser do when Red Dawn happens?
What every once in a while I think about that, because in today's day and age, it's like, so I think about where are my weapons? Where's the ammunition?
How is it going to take you 4 hours to,
No, I think it would be immediate, because I'm in Florida. Thank God, everybody's packing all the time. I got multiple weapons. So I just went to a concert the other day, and as I was pulling up, the people dropped me off. I look, and there's metal detectors, and I'm going, well, because my leg always goes off, right? Yeah. But then again, I had a pistol on, I had a knife, and I'm going, so I had to put it all into the center console of the car, right? Yeah. So then I walk through the metal detector. They take one look at me, and they just say, "Go ahead." And it's like I didn't have to do any of that. Yeah. I didn't want to get patted down.
Yeah, the 17-year-old security guard.
Yeah. Anyway,
I don't want to give this guy a hard time.
That's one of the reasons I love Florida. With COVID and all that, we were locked down the first 2 months, but after that,
DeSantis gave us a lot of freedom.
Yeah, we sure did, and it made sense.
The rest of the world was crying and dying.
It made sense.
Yeah,
I do regret having to take the shots, but I still do a lot of travel. I travel a lot, and you couldn't travel back in those days without having a shot, right? No. So, will I get another one? Absolutely not. Yeah. Everybody wants to get 17 freaking boosters, and I'm like, nope, not doing it, because I've already had it twice.
So in the Navy, you had
I have 2 shots and I had COVID twice, so it's like,
But when you're traveling to Africa,
Yeah, you're right. I'm a civilian now, but when you're in, yeah, you're right. In the Navy, I've got 1,000 shots, right? So, but those vaccines are tried, true, tested, right?
Yeah, right.
This
Yeah,
one
if anybody has
obviously is not,
experience
right?
with injections, you
Yes.
guys.
So everybody in the military, the first thing you do when you come in is you get a multitude of shots, probably about at least 10 to start, right?
Yeah.
And then every time you deploy somewhere overseas, you got to get a series of wherever you're going, depending on, what the disease is, the locals, you get more shots.
How long were you operational for?
22 years.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Because typically, team guys will see what.
No, some guys will go 30 years, but
Operational?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Well, like I said, operational, it doesn't mean anything to me. It just means like instead of kicking the door in,
Right.
you're the guy out on the radio calling in an airstrike. It doesn't mean you
A little bit further back.
You have to be able, you still have to be able
Gotcha.
to do all that, but you're managing
Right.
the mission, right?
Yeah.
And that's what your job is, right? So you're working as an enlisted guy. You're working for your officer in command, right? And he's got his mission. And like I said, that's coordination with all the other forces on the target. And you're kind of managing the teams as they go in, kicking down doors and taking care of threats.
Like I have maybe one more question or one more roundabout. So where were you when Operation Red Wings happened?
I was at the operations department in SEAL Team 6. So we were managing everything that you can imagine back in those days. I did some deployments over to Afghanistan at that time. So I was going back and forth. But that's what I was doing.
Are you guys not really allowed to talk about? So did you guys, I know because there was presence on the ground.
Yeah, our guys our team was there, right? So that was, that's where we were stationed at the time, or that's what our mission was.
Mm-hmm.
So when that went down, our guys were there, obviously in different areas, different bases and stuff. So we had, of course, when something horrendous like that happens, everybody's involved, and then first is the rescue, and then they try to recover all the equipment and all that stuff, and deceased as we can, and then it turns into more like a focus on find out who did it, how can we stop it, how do we never make it happen again. You go into this like after action cycle on like what we did right, what we did wrong. Sometimes you didn't do anything wrong.
So then you have even worse, even more tragic, Extortion 17.
Yeah, that was so when I've given a tour of the National Navy SEAL Museum, we have our memorial wall, right? And we have the names of every frogman that has died from World War II to the present. And what I tell people is we've had about 17,000 SEALs, frogmen, since World War II to the present day, right? About 8,000 of those were produced for World War II. So like a team back in those days was 120 guys, right? So they had plenty of people, between the, Normandy and the Atlantic and then the Pacific. So 1945, the war ends, and then they start producing about 100 to 150 SEALs a year. That's it. Right? So when we lose a helicopter load of guys, there's no way to replace that experience. There's just no way to do it. So that's what I say when you look at that wall, and that's why it's so important, because I shouldn't say only, we have 308 names on our memorial wall right now. We're going to add at least 2 more on this Memorial Day. So whenever we lose just one guy, it's a huge hit on our whole community. And because most of the times we already know who they are, right? There's only 2,500 active duty SEALs, right? So as in my career of 34 years, I knew most of the community just because I was there so long, right? So except for maybe the new guys that were coming in right out of BUD/S. So it's a hell of a thing, and now at the museum, I still know everybody, right? Because everybody ends up coming back here to the museum now. And I guess that's always been my goal, is to make sure people know about this place, especially team guys that are terrible with history and heritage. I mean, and I was one of them. I didn't know a damn thing about the museum or our history until I got here 10 years ago. And I've learned ever since. And, I'm trying to build that because, like, for example, you're going through buds, you carry those those damn rubber boats on your head, the IBSs, right? And I just thought it was a way for the instructors that they came up with to torture us, right? No, it's like started right here in Fort Pierce. And that's what these guys use on the beaches in Normandy. They would paddle in their boat full of explosives and get out of the boat, tie them to the obstacles, and then try to get the hell out of there or go to the beach. And that's what those boats are for. And that's how they carry them around on their heads. So I'm like going, go figure. But did anybody ever tell me that? No. So I had to figure that one out myself. So like I said, my goal is like, there shouldn't be a young SEAL that makes it through SEAL training that does not know about certain things about their history.
Yeah. The context of Extortion 17 means something different from you. Even to me, I have a personal context with it. I mentor at Operation 300 in memory of Aaron Vaughn, and I've known the family for 10 years, and their family had representatives at my dad's funeral, before Extortion happened. So it means something to me, but golly, it probably means an incredible amount to you. I know that you guys, one thing I think that America would be jaw dropped is the professionalism of the teams, and more so SEAL Team 6. When you lose guys, everybody knows that there is still a job to do. So, and that's probably one of the most professional things you can ever witness, is in the face of like losing somebody, everybody around you can help each other square up and continue the mission, because I don't want more guys drop in, but have you had any type of, like, I don't know, have you been able to like process that since?
You know what? One of the reasons that, besides being burned out and not wanting to become that old grumpy guy, was one of my jobs in the operations department was to oversee the memorials for everyone. And when Extortion hit, that was, a tremendous tragedy, with just the sheer numbers, right? So when somebody dies, whether it be in combat or training or just, has a heart attack, we form a CACO team, which is a casualty assistance team. So you can imagine for Extortion, we had to form, 18 teams, all working at the same time, all trying to take care of all the families. I mean, it's incredible, because then you got to deal with, John Smith's mom and dad were divorced, right? Yeah. So then you got to find the two houses. Yeah, exactly. And we got to figure out where they are. Yeah. And then we got to figure out when somebody's going to be home, or where, you know what I mean? And they have to go all over the country, and we have to try to coordinate that. So I think that was, that was tough on me. And then when we had the memorial service at the Virginia Beach, not amphitheater, but the civic, what do you call it? The civic center, whatever you want to call it. I mean, it just really hit me hard when I saw thousands of people come to see that. And we had actually done that and got it ready. And anyway, at that point, like I said, I was getting burned out.
Because you're doing your job as a professional to organize, to make sure everything happens correctly. But then you're allowed, finally kind of culminates. Yep. And you're able to.
And then, so I got out of there, get to the museum, right? The same thing happens. Guess why? Because every Veterans Day, now Memorial Day, we swim out the ashes of our fallen frogmen. So it was the same thing. So we, like last year, we had 17 sets of ashes. So we had 17 families lined up on the beach with 2 SEALs carrying their loved ones' ashes out. And it's just as emotional. So what I figured is I'm never going to escape it. So I've kind of accepted it, believe it or not. And with the help of one of my chaplains in when I was at SEAL Team 6, Chaplain Mike, and he now lives in Florida, and he's the museum's chaplain. So he helps me through a lot of this stuff because he's the professional, right? I'm just a dumb SEAL. He knows how to deal with families. He knows what, how to,
It's not at all.
He tells me I have compassion disorder. So because I have like one feeling left, right? And it's like, I don't typically get all emotional about some of this stuff, but except on that day. And now we shifted it to Memorial Day, so we can add the names to the wall and swim the ashes out at the same time and make it more inclusive. I hate using that word, sorry.
So, legacy, I mean, I'm sure people are going to remember you for the museum, but
see, I don't think like that. My legacy are my children, as long as they're, good, productive citizens, which they are. That's all I need. I don't need any of this other stuff. It's my job. I love it, but I'm not building it so I get a bust of my big ass head in the museum. No, not happening.
Well, thank you so much for doing this.
Thanks. You're welcome.
Appreciate you.
It was
so
fun.
Much, Rick. Of course. Where can people find you? Where can people learn more about what you're doing?
Come to the National Navy SEAL Museum, Fort Pierce, and soon to be in San Diego. We are the birthplace of the Navy SEALs, and you'll learn something, and you'll have fun, and you'll meet a lot of great people. So,
and if you're cool, Rick might even give you a personal tour.
Yes, that's if you're lucky.
Yeah. All right.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Or you might even get a coin. I might have some coins in my pocket. Oh, go figure.
All right. All right.